Okay, so let us see like Azure DevOps certification. So this is one of the Microsoft 3-star certification. So 3-star in the sense like it falls under an expert level category of Microsoft certification. So since it falls under an expert level certification, this certification carries much more importance than any other certifications that Microsoft has. So this has a lot of values and it has a lot of respect outside the industry, especially on the DevOps area. So let us get started. My name is Subramani Sundaram, and I'm working as a DevSecOps engineer, and I have around 11 plus years of hands-on experiences on architecting and automating and mission critical applications. And my main role would be creating of CI/CD pipelines for a large scale infrastructure management tools and across various enterprise standards. And I'm an Azure DevOps engineer expert. I completed this last year, and I've also done a lot of other certifications as well, like site reliability engineering and scaled agile framework for DevOps practitioner for large enterprises, and much more other than this, right? So now we'll see what we will learn today and what are all the outputs that you guys will be getting it outside of this course. So first we will learn what is Azure DevOps, okay? And then we will learn what is Azure repositories, and then we will see what is Azure pipelines, and then we will see what is Azure artifacts, and then Azure boards, Azure test plans, and then libraries, variables and key vaults of Azure, and then Azure dashboards and Azure wiki. And we will have a short demo of end-to-end creation of a website using our Azure DevOps CI/CD process with Azure portal, and then a related documents that Fleximan gives you as part of this course. So I hope you guys are ready to learn about this. So let's start with what is DevOps. Anyone has an idea like what is DevOps? Because you would have heard this term DevOps and it is becoming a huge buzzword in this industry for the last 3-4 years. And everyone wanted to jump into DevOps because this is one of the niche skills which everyone is looking out for an industry now. And the whole IT industry is actually transforming into an high transformation systems, and everyone wanted to move towards an next level of transformation in their current industry or their current plan, which they are actually part of it. So by 2020 end or by 2021, almost 90% of the world companies will move towards the next level called as DevOps and automation. So can anyone tell me like what do you know about DevOps? Any idea of what is DevOps?
I think it's like um, a combination of development plus IT operations thing, which is like trying to sort out the system development lifecycle to provide continuous delivery with high software quality.
Excellent, excellent, very good. So that's what we call as. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
My understanding is it provides automatic deployment and also to improve the operational efficiency.
Yes, that is also a valid point. Any other guys?
Something following people, process, and technology.
Okay, good, good. So all these are, we can call it as all these form towards a DevOps, okay? But there is no hard and fast rule of what is DevOps, but there is no hard and fast rule like what is the definition of DevOps. But if someone asks you like what is exactly DevOps, you can give them a simple answer. DevOps is nothing but a combination of people plus process plus tools. Tools here we call it as products to provide a continuous value to the end customer. That's what our colleague told just now. So why do we need these three participants to become a DevOps? That's because without people, we will not be able to do any automations or will not be able to achieve anything. So obviously people should be mainly needed for that. Okay, we have convinced the people, okay, and then without a process, what the people will do, because they don't know what to do, because there is no defined process, there is no operating procedure, nothing is there. So obviously we need a process to guide the people. Okay, people have been convinced, process have been convinced, then what are they going to do without the tools? So that is why tools is also needed as part of this engagement. So by combination of all these three things together, they are going to deliver an high-end value to the customer using a CI/CD process. So that is what we call it as DevOps. So DevOps is nothing but combination of people plus process plus products to provide an continuous value to the end customers. So this is what you should tell to others if someone is asking you what is DevOps, right? Now, let us go to Azure DevOps. So many people would be wondering, like, what is Azure DevOps? Is it suitable for me? I am into a different background. Consider, for example, I am I might be a DBA. Okay, so I don't even know what is DevOps, because my career fully I have worked on Oracle and MySQL and other things. Or some people might be on a middleware engineers, or some people might be a tester, some people might be a developers. So will it be suitable for me? Absolutely, because Azure DevOps is a niche tool, as I was telling you about, from Microsoft. Anyone can read it. Even a college graduates can read it. Even an industry freshers can read it. Even if you're a 15-20 years of experience on a database, you can still read it. If you're totally onto a business analyst role where you don't even know anything technical, still you can read it, because this is one of the tool which is used for all the areas of IT. Like, consider if you're a business analyst, you can still use Azure DevOps to gather the business requirements. Okay. If you're totally a database engineer, you can still use Azure DevOps to take a backup and restore of your database. If you are totally a tester alone, you don't know anything about code, you don't know anything about CI/CD, still you can use Azure DevOps to run your test cases using Selenium or JMeter or whatever it is. So that is what I'm saying. Like, even if you don't know anything about DevOps, still you can read this Azure DevOps, because this gives you an value of complete IT industry. It's not only for a particular field. It's not only for development. It's not only for testing. It's for an entire IT field, right? So obviously, who can read DevOps? Anyone who is working on a cloud, anyone who is working on an agile process, any Azure developer, an Azure administrator, anyone who is working on DevOps obviously can learn this Azure DevOps. But other than this, it is not restricted. As I was telling you about, from fresher till 20-25 years of experience in any industry, any field can read this Azure DevOps. So it is such a niche tool, such a niche industry, and this expert level certification has been very much aggregated across the world. So if you get this badge of Azure DevOps Engineer Expert on your resume, obviously I'm 100% sure you'll get a lot of opportunities outside. Now, coming back to the skills measured in AZ400. So these will be the exam pattern that you will be getting it as part of your AZ400 exam. So there are around 7 modules, and you will see a different modules over here. Like, the first module is instrumentation strategy, where you will get 5 to 10%. So 5 to 10% in the sense, out of 60 questions, you will be getting around 5 questions or 6 questions, depending upon this module. And similarly, for site reliability engineering, you will be getting around 5 questions. And then for security and compliance, you will be getting around 10 questions or something like that. And managing of source control, and then communication and collaboration, and then implementing continuous integration, and then continuous delivery. So we have covered this entire module, or this entire section of this AZ400 exam, with various amount of video tutorials, with various amount of labs in each and every section, with more and more hands-on for you guys, and more guides, activity guides, and everything is being covered, which I will be taking over, and I'll be showing you out in quite some time now. But just have a basic idea, like, there are 7 modules in AZ400, and these are all the different sections out of this 7 modules, right? So before we jump on to Azure DevOps, any doubts that you guys have till now?
Just one question.
Sure.
So this is AZ400. So is there any, like, there are many certification in Azure. So is there any order we should generally people follow, or it's like we can pick any and we can do the certification?
See, generally for an expert level certification, because if you see, there is a 3-star in this badge, right? So any expert level certification in Azure has a prerequisite for it, which is, before you go to the 3-star, you should actually do a 2-star certification. Okay, which is either Azure administrator or an Azure developer, which is AZ104 or AZ204. That is a prerequisite which is given from the Microsoft side to get this certification, right? But it is not exactly like you have to do that 1-star, which 1-star is nothing but AZ900, right? So again, Fleximind has that AZ900 course, which is again the basics of cloud computing, basics of Azure, which is very easy, and it is. I mean, like, you can even read the complete course and get certified in less than a week. So that is 1-star certification, right? So if you see the actual order, you should do AZ900 and then AZ104 or 204, and then come to AZ400, right?
Okay.
But what I have done in my career is, like, I like this Azure because I am a DevOps engineer, right? So I like this Azure DevOps very well, and I am actually working on Azure DevOps for at least 3-4 years till now. So I have taken this AZ400 directly.
Okay.
Okay. Because for me, this is required for my job, right? So I have taken the AZ400 exam directly. And then what I did, I went reverse back, and then I went to 103, and then I went to 900. Like that also you can do it if you're really interested in this. If this AZ400 is actually impressing you a lot, no, nothing is stopping you from writing an exam or learning it.
Okay, and till how many stars we have further? 3. This is 3 stars. So next level, what we have?
That's all.
That's all. Okay.
Other than that, you just have a specialty certifications like SAP, IoT, and other things. So those are all the specialty certifications. But Microsoft has only 3 stars. That's all. Any other doubts? Good. So let's jump into what is Azure DevOps, right? So till now we have seen what is DevOps and who this Azure DevOps is being useful for. Now I'll tell you what exactly is this Azure DevOps. Azure DevOps, as I was telling you about, it's a complete Microsoft product which gives you an end-to-end visibility of an IT industry. Okay, so how it gives an end-to-end visibility, or this tool is obviously called as an ALM tool. Have you guys heard about ALM? What is ALM? Any idea what is ALM? I'm sorry, come again.
Application Lifecycle Management.
Yeah. Exactly. What is that? What does an application lifecycle management means?
Oh, Sheldon, I'm not correctly unable to connect the definition. I forgot.
No issues. So as you said, application lifecycle management, which means it covers an entire software development lifecycle, which is starting from requirements gathering, analysis, design, implementation, testing, and maintenance. Okay, so this is the life cycle of an application. So ALM tool is nothing but a single tool which actually covers you an entire SDLC lifecycle. That is an application lifecycle management tool. Similar to this Azure DevOps, there are other application lifecycle management tools like GitLab. Have you guys heard about GitLab?
Yes, I have heard.
Yes. So GitLab is another ALM tool. And have you guys heard about Serena? Serena is again another ALM tool, and similarly Atlassian. Atlassian is again another ALM tool. Okay, so from the Microsoft side, this Azure DevOps is one of your best ALM tool, and this has been #1 in the industry for the last 3-4 years, because this is being, the benefits of this is any language. You can use any language, you can use any platform, you can use any cloud. Okay, that makes this Azure DevOps much stronger in the industry than any other ALM tools. Okay, any language in the sense you can use Java. Since it is a Microsoft product, it doesn't mean like it works only with the .NET. No, you can still use a PHP program, you can still use a Python, you can still use a Node.js, you can still use Android or iOS also. And any platform in the sense, like, since it is an Azure DevOps Microsoft product, it doesn't work only on the Windows. We are using this Azure DevOps on Linux. We are using this Azure DevOps, and even if you see, my mission is a Mac mission, so I'm using this Azure DevOps on the Mac as well. So this doesn't get constrained only to a particular platform. And obviously any cloud, since this is from Microsoft, it doesn't support only Azure. It can support OpenShift, it can support Google, it can support Alibaba, it can support AWS as well. So it gives you an flexibility for end-to-end traceability. That's what I said on the second point, which is starting from the requirements gathering. If a business analyst is actually getting a requirement, that requirement is being converted into a code, and that code is being tested, that code is being built, that code is being deployed, and that code is being monitored. So you have all these different tools, everything together in your Azure DevOps. That's why it is giving you an end-to-end traceability as well. And again, obviously this Docker and Kubernetes are very good integrated with this Azure DevOps. So you don't need to specifically install anything on this Azure DevOps to run the Docker or Kubernetes. So you can easily build and push your images to the Docker Hub or Azure Registry, and then you can easily host it to an Azure Kubernetes services. So which is natively integrated into this Azure DevOps. And how it will benefit to my organization. Again, an organization, if they are using this open source tools, consider, for example, they are using Git for version control. They are using Jira for your ticketing tools, and they are using some other tools for your business analyst tools. And if they are using Selenium for test cases, and then they are using a Docker for your containerization. They are using Tomcat for your web servers. They are using IAS for your other servers. So instead of using all these different tools, I can have this Azure DevOps as a single tool, which provides me an end-to-end traceability. So from an organization perspective, this gives me a very good value add, and I can save money. Instead of going with multiple tools, I can go with a single tool. So the dependency of multiple tools is also reduced, and you will not get a person who knows all the 5-6 tools outside in the market, but you can get a person who knows a single tool called Azure DevOps, who will be able to manage your entire IT solutions. That is the reason it is kept under an expert level category, so that if you read this single tool, which is equivalent to 6 tools outside in the IT industry, that's the advantage that you will be getting it after reading this Azure DevOps. And obviously, people will be asking, like, what is the difference between Azure DevOps and TFS? TFS is nothing but your Team Foundation Server. So this Azure DevOps is also called as TFS. There is no much difference. Azure DevOps is a cloud hosted solution. TFS is your local installation solution. That's the only difference. So if you're downloading an exe file, and then if you're installing it on your server, whether it's a Windows Server 2016 or 19 or anywhere, that is called as your TFS, which is Team Foundation Server. If you are just using your Azure DevOps on the cloud itself, so that Microsoft takes care of its VM, Microsoft takes care of its memory, CPU, RAM, and everything, then that is called as your Azure DevOps. So which is nothing but your software as a service. TFS is your local installation machine. That's the only difference. Any doubts you guys have on this?
I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but I heard that TFS is now called as Azure DevOps. Is it right?
No, that's what I'm saying. TFS is also Azure DevOps. Azure DevOps is also TFS, but the only difference is, like, if you are calling it as a TFS, then you have to install the software on your machine. Okay. So when you go to the Microsoft website,
sorry, I think DevOps is also available as on-premises.
No, when Azure DevOps is available as on-premises, that is called as TFS.
Yes, actually there are two versions of DevOps. One is Azure DevOps Server, and the other one is Azure DevOps Services, which is on cloud, right?
Correct. That is Azure DevOps Services is called as Azure DevOps plainly. In the outside world, they call it as Azure DevOps. Okay. When you say Azure DevOps Server, it is indirectly called as TFS, which is Team Foundation Server. Team Foundation Server is an old name.
Yeah, but in system and all, they have renamed it as a DevOps Server.
Correct. But some people still remember it as TFS. That's the reason I put it as TFS versus Azure DevOps. Okay. Because if you say someone like DevOps Server, they will not be able to understand it.
Yeah, correct.
So if a person is fully aware of TFS, does he still need to learn DevOps?
Not exactly. If the person is actually aware of this as TFS, then it will be very easy for him to use this Azure DevOps, because all the functionalities, all the terminologies, everything is same. The only difference is, like, in the TFS, everything you have to manage it, the backup and everything, the space, the backup and the pipelines and the agents, everything you have to install and manage it. But in Azure DevOps, everything will be managed by Microsoft. You can still install your own agents and everything, but again, the overhead is taken care by the Microsoft. The rest are all the same.
Okay, you mentioned there are 6 tools included in these DevOps, like Jira and other Git and all.
Yes.
An Azure DevOps engineer, does he need to learn all these 6?
Of course. If you're an Azure DevOps engineer expert, or if you're getting this AZ400 certification, you should know all these 6-7 things. Only then you will be qualified as an AZ400 expert.
So first we need to learn all these tools and then prepare for the certification. Is that what you say?
Yes, for this certification, yes.
Okay, for this DevOps course, do they cover all these things? For example, FlexMind, if you take it, do you cover all these 6 tools as part of this DevOps?
I'll show you. The next slides are there only. And I'll just try to cover what are all the things that we are having it as part of this course.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
Hey, hi, I have one question. I am not much into Azure DevOps yet, but we do in our projects, like using the Azure repos and automatically uploading the codes over there, like we did in TFS. So these are the components, the Azure repos pipelines are there. Are we looking for in Azure DevOps? Those are the components?
Exactly. So
Okay.
this is what we are going to cover in our upcoming slides, because the components or the tools that I said as part of Azure DevOps is nothing but your Azure repos, Azure pipelines, Azure releases, Azure task boards, Azure boards, dashboards. Those are all the exact things.
Okay. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, good. So the first tool that we cover as part of our Azure DevOps is nothing but your Azure repositories. Okay. So as you all know, Git has been purchased by Microsoft in 2018 end. Okay. So after that, in 2019, they made all the Git repositories, private repositories, everything as free. Okay. So if suppose you are not going to use everything in Azure DevOps, okay, if your company is planning to go with Jenkins or whatever other tools they wanted, still you can use your repository for free in Azure DevOps, because Azure DevOps actually gives you unlimited free private repositories for you. So you can still have your Git repositories on Azure DevOps. And then if you're not interested on CI/CD in Azure DevOps, still you can go with other tools, whatever your company is being preferred for. So this repository creations and everything in Azure DevOps is very, very easy. If you see, you can do all the operations that you're doing it on your Git. Like, I don't know how many of you know Git, but if you guys are using Git for quite some time now, it is same thing that you're going to do it in your Azure DevOps. You are still having your repositories, you still have your cloning, you still have your branches, you still have your pull request. And apart from that, the extra privileges that Azure DevOps gives you is like, you can have your own branch policies as well. I can define my own branch policy. Branch policy is nothing but I can tell only from this branch to this branch the merge should happen, or only this person has to do the merge, or if the merge is, or if the pull request commands are not proper, cancel the merge. So like that, I can put multiple rules on my branch conditions as well. So apart from that, creation and the deletion of the branches or repositories is very easy, because here everything you're going to do it on a UI tool. So the pictures that I'm actually showing you, if you see, creation of a repository is like I just need to go there, click on new repository, and then within a matter of 10 seconds, I'm creating a new repository. And if I wanted to import a repository from some other GitHub or some other Bitbucket or anywhere else, there is an option over here called as import repository. I just need to click on import repository and it will ask me for a source URL. Source URL is nothing but from where you want to import it. And then the target name. Target name is nothing but what is the name of the repository that you wanted to give it. If you give those two things, your code will be imported automatically. And then obviously you have an options for this peer code reviews, and you can even raise a code review request and make your peer as an approver for this. And you can even have the pull request approvals. A lot of things are available here as part of your Azure DevOps. So you can imagine like whatever things that you comes into your mind for a repositories, everything you can read it from this particular repository section. Any doubts on this Azure repositories? I guess you guys know about Git, right? Or is there anyone that is very new to Git as well?
I think maybe many of us would be new to Git.
Okay, but again, Git is very, very easy. Okay, because during on this particular course journey, okay, I have even recorded a lot of videos on how do you create this repository, how do you import a repository, and then how do you push the changes, how do you pull the changes. I have recorded everything and then I have kept it over there. So if someone who is practically new to Git also, would be easy for them to learn it. And if someone who is a beginner in Git, it would be easy for them. If someone who is an intermediate or an expert, they will learn at least something new on this particular repositories of Azure DevOps. So you don't need to worry like you don't know Git and all. I have covered everything from the basics of the Git to create a repository, to import a repository, to create a branches, branch policies, branch logs. A lot of things I have covered as part of this repositories on Azure DevOps.
We are also providing a free course on Git fundamentals, which we have already shared the link in the chat window. So anybody who's who want to get started with Git can absolutely enroll for this course and get their foundation in place. Okay.
Sure. Thanks, Pankaj. Okay. So any doubts on these repositories? Good. So the next one that we are going to cover as part of our Azure DevOps tool is build pipelines, which is people call it as a CI pipelines. Okay. So this Azure DevOps has unlimited build minutes for a public projects, and you can have 10 parallel jobs for Windows, Linux, or Mac OS, which means don't get confused with all those wordings. It is nothing but you can run your pipeline on Windows machines. You can run your CI pipelines on your Linux machines. You can run your CI pipelines on Mac OS as well. So as I said, this Azure DevOps doesn't restrict to a single OS, or it doesn't restrict to a single code. I can run a same build in Mac, in Windows, in Linux. I will get the same output as well. So that kind of privileges also this Azure DevOps gives you. And since it is hosted Azure services, everything will be taken care by the Microsoft. You don't need to worry about like, do I need to install a software on my Mac? Do I need to install this particular Java version? Do I need to install this particular Git version? No, you don't need to worry, because all those overheads and all those worries will be taken care by the Microsoft agents. And your job or your work is just to create a code, and then you need to tell them which OS you want to run it. If you tell Microsoft like, okay, I want a Windows OS, Microsoft will automatically take care of installation of the softwares and everything, and it will make sure your code is running on that machine and you're getting a proper output. So that kind of advantages this Azure DevOps gives you as a CI pipeline hosting services. And it is very much useful for us to even create or run the containers and the Kubernetes services as well. So I can create a Docker containers. This extensions is nothing but plugins. Okay, so there are a lot of plugins, around 1,200 to 1,300 plugins available in your marketplace, so that you can download any plugins that you want, and then you can integrate it very easily, and then you can run your Docker, you can run your Kubernetes, Terraform, Linux, Terraform, Ansible, anything that you wanted to do a CI pipeline will be very easy in your Azure DevOps, right? Any doubts on this? So we have covered an extensive lab on the CI pipeline where, okay, so we have covered an extensive lab on the CI pipeline where we have created a lot of CI pipelines. We have created a lot of security tools. We have included SonarQube as part of CI pipelines. We have even included test cases where we have run a load test against a CI pipeline. So there are a lot of tools, labs that is covered as part of the CI pipelines, and it will be very engaging for you guys to learn. So if someone is very new to Azure DevOps, it will be very much engaging for them to learn as much as this tool gives you, and as much the privileges this tool is helping you to learn on part of this DevOps industry. So that is what the people, or that is what the current industry standards is actually looking on at present. So I would highly appreciate you guys to have a look into it at least once. So this is obviously a release pipeline. So the previous one which we saw is a CI pipeline. This release pipeline is called as your CD pipeline, which is again the third tool that we are going to see as part of this Azure DevOps. So this CD pipeline, again, if you see from this particular output or a picture, if you see, I am trying to deploy around this multiple pods or multiple missions at the same time, and the number of greens is nothing but number of pods which became successful. Number of blue is nothing but which is running. Number of gray is nothing but which is pending. So if you see, at the same time, I'm trying to deploy it to 74 missions or 74 pods or 74 Kubernetes nodes at the same time. So that kind of flexibility is also available, and you can see the real-time status of what is failed, what is successful. And if you see the picture above, which is like I'm having multiple stages, and I can run parallel staging also at the same time. For example, if I have a SIT environment, and if I have a UAT environment, and then if I have a production environment, I can run SIT and UAT at the same time with different branches also. Consider, for example, SIT has to run from develop branch and UAT has to run from QA branch. I can run these two releases at the same time with two different branches and two different pipelines. So that kind of privileges can also be given as part of your release pipelines. And for the production, I can even make a release gates also. Release gate is nothing but without your proper approvals or without your proper management or your project manager's approval or client approval, the code should not go to the production. So I can even stop the production deployment with this gate approvals, so that during your auditing purpose also, you have all the approvals and everything in place before your code is being deployed into a production. And there is again another option which is available, like auto rollback also. So 3 months back, they brought this update on the what do you call a sprint, which is nothing but if your pipeline is getting failed automatically, then Azure DevOps will automatically reverse it back to the previous version. So that is called as your auto rollback. So that kind of options also is available for you guys, so that you can choose that option and you can tell them what is the previous version that you wanted to roll back in case of failures. Okay, so I'm sorry, I was not able to see the chat. Let me see it. Okay, who bears the cost of compute of CI/CD, client or cloud provider? No, see it. The cost for the CI/CD pipeline is nothing but number of minutes that you are going to run it. Okay, so it is not about the compute, it is not about the memory, or it is not about the CPU. Number of minutes that your CI and CD is running is being calculated, and it will be connected to your billing agent, and the billing has to be paid for your or from your client or whoever it is. So your billing will be depending upon the number of minutes that you run on your build pipeline or your release pipeline. It doesn't depend upon number of number of CPU or memory.
Yeah, that's exactly I had the question. Like it's in the other way they are charging, so it's charge on the
Yeah,
client.
ultimately they will charge. At the end of the day, they will charge, but they won't charge it for your compute or memory, but they will charge you for the number of minutes.
Yeah, that's okay.
Okay, so any doubts, anything on this CI or CD pipelines? Good. Okay, so the next one is nothing but your task groups. Okay, so as the name indicates, I am combining 3-4 tasks together into a single group, and I can use it on my CI pipeline or a CD pipeline. Okay, consider here, for example, these are all different tasks, like updating an app settings in a web app, deploying a web app, and restarting a web app. So this will be a common set of tasks that you will be using it for any web deployment, because you have to update the app settings. App settings is nothing but your configuration settings on the website. You have to give your SQL connection strings, you have to give your Node.js versions, you have to give your library versions. So that is what the first task is going to do. Second task is nothing but it is going to deploy a code into a website. Third task is nothing but it's going to restart it. So if I am using these 3 tasks continuously for around the previous example, if you see, I am deploying it to 74 targets, which is 74 missions I'm trying to deploy. So if I'm trying to use these 3 tasks on 74 different missions, then it will take a huge time for me to go and update it on each and every mission or each and every pipeline. In such cases, what I'm going to do, I'm going to combine these 3 into a single group called as task group. And then instead of adding 3 different tasks, I'm going to add only 1 task group, so that one task group covers internally these 3 tasks every time. You understood that? What does that mean? Any doubts, guys, on this task group?
Maybe you should explain again.
Yeah.
Is there any order while executing the job?
Yes. Okay, so I was expecting this question, right? So this task group will be working only for the top to bottom level option. So it is like, for example, if I have one first task, which is update settings, and then I have this last task restart, and I want to have a task group only for 1 and 3. No, you cannot do it. Task group should be logical order, like it should be from 1, 2, and 3, or 2, 3, and 4, or 4, 5, and 6. It should be a combined order. It cannot be an order where you can choose 1 and then 5 and then 7, nothing like that. So if you want to create a task group, then it has to be logical order, and then it cannot be anything different.
So does it provide the enable disable options for any task?
Yes, yes. So when you create, when you right click this task, okay, there is an option of right click. When you right click this task, it gives you an option of enabling or disabling, and it gives you an option of cloning as well. So if I want to use this same update settings 2 times, then I can right click and clone it. If I want to disable it, I can right click and disable or enable it.
And can we reorder this one? Like
yeah. It's just a drag and drop, like any other things.
Okay.
Okay, so it's everything like very easy. It's like just drag and drop. If you want to make the second as first, you just click your mouse and then pull it up. That's all. It's just a drag and drop.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
We will have a demo session as well, right?
Yeah. I'll show you.
Sure.
Yeah. I'll show you that. So the next one is again a deployment group. So as I was telling you about, the task group is just going to combine every task together into a single one. Deployment group is nothing but combination of multiple VMs into a single group. Okay, so if I have around 10 VMs for my particular office, like for example, on a development, I need to deploy it to 10 missions, and for UAT, I need to deploy it to 15 missions. So I don't need to struggle by going into 15 missions and I don't know which one is a UAT, I don't know which one is a SIT. Instead of that, create a deployment group and add all the UAT missions into this deployment group and rename this group as a UAT group. So that whenever I want to deploy or whenever I want to release a code into a UAT, I can just call this group. And then if I try to deploy it to the group, automatically all the 10 missions inside the UAT group will be deployed. I don't need to worry or I don't need to go and deploy it into each and every mission. That's the advantage of this deployment group. And again, there might be another question where I want to deploy it only for my 2 missions or 3 missions instead of 10 missions. How can I do it? Again, this left-hand side picture will help you to do that. If you see, I can choose one target at a time, or I can choose multiple targets at a time. If I choose multiple targets, I can tell them 50% is nothing but out of 10 missions, only 5 missions will be deployed. Or I can even reduce it, increase it to the number of missions. Or if I choose one target at a time, I can tell which mission I want, whether it's a 6th mission or a 7th mission. So that kind of option is also available for me to choose it, right? It is just a extra options given from Azure DevOps for your deployment purpose to make it much easier, right? Any doubts on this? Good. So
I
this,
didn't understand.
I'm sorry, come again.
I didn't understand the goal of multiple virtual missions here. So,
okay, so multiple, have you guys heard about the canary deployment? There is an option called as canary deployment. Have you come across this?
No.
Okay.
Why we have that terminology, canary deployment?
Okay, canary deployment is nothing but it is one of the deployment options available as per the deployment model of DevOps. Okay, as per the deployment model of DevOps, there are multiple deployment options. One is A/B deployment, another one is blue-green deployment, another one is canary deployment, another one is feature deployment. So canary deployment is nothing but I have 10 missions with me, or I consider, for example, I have missions in US, UK, India, and Dubai. Okay, I don't want to deploy my code changes into all these areas geographically at the same time, so that if some chaos happens, the whole geography will be down for me, right? If some small mistake, my India, UK, Dubai, Singapore, all the missions will be down, correct? Because of that, what I'm planning to do my release only on Dubai and Singapore. If it is working fine, I will analyze it for 2 days. Then what I will do, I will increase my deployment to another region, which is US. Again, I will monitor it for 2 more days. Okay, if I'm not getting any issues, I will again increase my deployment to UK region. So that is called as canary deployment, increasing your deployments part by part. Understood?
And also like from low priority to high priority kind?
Kind of, because see, if I'm choosing Singapore first, which means my major audience would not be on a Singapore.
So that is kind of safe deployment model, right?
Correct. So that is called as this multiple deployment options, which means I am trying to deploy it only to the 50% of the target users. I'm not trying to deploy it to all the other users in the world. So if I try to still reduce it by 20%, I can just scroll this button up and down. So if I still try to reduce it by 20%, which means only one particular region or one particular segment of my mission will be deployed, so that I can analyze the changes. I can check whether the audience is liking this or not. And if based on the feedbacks that I'm getting it, then I can again increase my slot from 20% to 40%. So that another two regions.
When you say percentage, it means suppose in one region we have 1 lakh customers, then 1 lakh instances or customer, whatever way you measure. So it will get deployed in 20,000. It will get deployed for 20,000 customers, or it's
no. It is not about the customers. It is about your servers. You're not deploying.
Yeah, I'm saying instances, fine. So it will deploy in 20,000 instances.
Correct.
Okay.
So, because you are combining these instances into a group, deployment group. So if I'm creating a group called Singapore and then I'm trying to attach all the instances of Singapore into that Singapore group, okay, then inside the Singapore group itself, I can just check, okay, whether I want to deploy it to my complete Singapore group or only one part of Singapore group. That also I can do it.
Okay.
Okay, so these are all just the extra options which is provided as part of your deployment models. That's all. If you want, you can use it. If not, it's again like it depends upon company to company. But this is one of the canary deployment model, right? I hope you guys understood, right? Okay.
Yes.
Silent?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Fine. So this you guys would have obviously seen it because at least you guys would have used the Jira boards till now, right? You guys know what is Jira boards?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So some people would have used Jira, some people would have used Trello boards, some people would have used Monday.coms, whatever it is. So in Azure, we call it as your Azure boards. Okay, so Azure boards actually gives you an option of your Scrum. It gives you an option of your Kanban as well. So again, Kanban is again another Japanese technology for your Agile under model, and then Scrum is again another different category falls under your Agile, and then Lean falls under your Agile. So there are different methodologies that falls under your Agile. So in this, we will see about Scrum and Kanban. Kanban is nothing but the board that you're seeing it over here, which is new, active, in progress, done. So scrolling of your task between multiple sections is going to be called as your Kanban board. Here you have this option called a sprint board. So when you go to the sprint board, you can see what is the current sprint which is going on over here, and then you can choose what is your work capacity, and depending upon the sprint, you can choose your velocity charge, you can choose your cumulative frequency, how much of your backlogs that you have taken, how much have you been completing, what is the sprint burn down charge, what is the sprint burn up charge. Everything can be decided as part of this particular boards. Kanban is nothing but just creating a backlog item, and then I'm assigning it to a particular team, and then the team is completing it. Okay, I'm moving it to the next section, and then I'm performing a testing and deployment. Okay, I'm just moving it to the done state. So this is just your normal operational kind of activities on the Kanban boards. Any doubts on this? It is plain, very simple task, or you can say it as a simple methods that you can use it. Any doubts on this?
No.
If you guys start using it, you will really love this board because it is very easy, and it is like, I mean, like I would really say, because I've used Jira, I've used Trello, I have used a lot of other sprint boards and other things, but comparatively, this one is very easy for us to write the queries, very easy for us to create a boards and then swap here and there, create a backlogs, and it will be a very good usage for your project managers, Scrum masters, and then your business analyst as well, right? Good. So another important thing that we will be covering as part of this Azure DevOps tool is nothing but your test plans. So what exactly is a test plan? Test plan is nothing but you would have heard a lot of people using Selenium test cases, functional test cases, regression test cases, or load test cases, performance test cases. So here Azure DevOps actually gives you an option for you to write the test plans, and it also gives you an option for writing a test cases and then a performance testing, JMeter testing, load testing, anything that you can do as part of your testing plans. And you can even integrate this as part of your CI/CD pipeline, so that if I wanted to deploy a website and then I wanted to do a load test on that particular website, I can create a load test suite over here. And then during a deployment, I can connect this load test to my deployment suite, so that once after my website is deployed, I can do my performance testing or a load testing on that particular website. And at the end of that, you will be getting a chart like this, where I can see what is the performance of it, what is an execution status, how much is passed, how much is failed, everything I can see it as part of my dashboard on the particular test plans. So it gives you again an end-to-end traceability, like how much is being covered over here, who has used which one, how many test cases has been filled by which person, how much is a pass percentage, how much is a fail percentage, everything you can see it as part of your test plans. But again, this doesn't come at as a native package with Azure DevOps. Test plans, you have to buy it separately. This is free because this has an extensive testing capabilities. So that is why it is not coming as free. For 30 days, Azure DevOps is actually giving us free. But again, if you want to buy it for your projects, then you have to pay. Right? Any doubts?
And apart from test plans, rest are free or they are charged?
Yes. Apart from test plans, the rest are all free. But again, in the test plans also, you will get the load test cases and performance test cases as free. This functional Selenium and the regression is not free. Load test and performance test is free. Since this Selenium, and you know how much importance is this Selenium and all, right? So that is why Selenium test cases, performance test cases, and the functional test cases is not free. But the rest of the things are all free to use.
So what about VAPT?
No, again, that is not free.
Oh, it's if you can purchase it, it include VAPT test plans any like.
We can include it as part of it, but that doesn't come natively. You have to create a test suite or a test plan for it, and then you have to convert it as a VAPT.
Okay.
Yeah, but I mean, like in our organization, we generally use this for our mobile testings, like Android test cases or iOS test cases. So again, that doesn't come as a native, but you have to create a test suites and the parameter configurations, the device configurations, everything. You have to design it, and then you can use it. It all depends upon how you wanted to convert this test categories. Okay. Good. So the next one, which is one of the important tool, which is called as an artifacts. Okay. So artifacts is nothing but an output of your build. Okay. So once after you do a CI pipeline, you will get an output called as an artifact, and that artifact might be a zip file, it can be a WAR file, it can be an EAR file. Those artifacts can be saved as part of your Azure artifacts. Generally, people would have heard about Nexus artifacts, people would have heard about JFrog artifacts and everything. Similarly, Azure by default gives its own artifacts. If you want to store your outputs on this Azure artifacts, again, depending upon the number of storage GBs, you have to pay it accordingly. So I would say instead of paying it for a Nexus or a JFrog, you can pay it for your Azure artifacts because it is natively integrated and it can be easily included as part of your CI/CD pipelines without any plugins or anything, because it is by default stored from Microsoft side. Right? Any doubts? Good. So this is a new concept which Azure DevOps has introduced in maybe like last December or something, which is Azure Environments. Azure Environments is nothing but creating your CI/CD pipelines using your YAML code, which is people call it as a pipeline as a code. Okay. In Jenkins, they call pipeline as a code by writing it using a Groovy code. Okay. Here you use an YAML to create a complete end-to-end CI/CD pipeline. If you see the left-hand side, I have written the different stages, different jobs and everything using YAML pipeline. On the right hand side, you can see the different stages over here, which is SIT stage, UAT stage and other things. So all these different stages from CI to CD and everything can be written as part of your code. If you're a hardcore developer and I am a basic developer, I want to actually write everything on my code, I don't like the UI, then this will be very much useful for you. You just need to write everything on the code and then you just need to execute it so that you can see the output over here, and you can even save this code as part of your repository so that you can even share it to someone else if they wanted to use it. So it is like, see, if some people are telling me like, okay, I'm not a developer, I don't know how to write the code, fine, very well, you can use a UI screen completely to do a CI/CD pipelines. If some people are very much interested on the code, I need to only use a code, I don't like the UI, still you can go ahead with this coding options. So Azure DevOps gives you both options. Either if I am a UI developer or I don't know code, I can use my UI screen. If I am a hardcore developer, I can use a development screen. So at the end of the day, you will get the output as the same, but it depends upon how you are using it and what are the things that you are using it. Right? Any doubts?
So for people like non-developers or who has got no background about development, how hard is this job?
That's what I'm saying. I am a non-developer, right? I am from an infrastructure background. So what I will do, I will generally go ahead with the normal CI/CD UI screen where I can pick up the task, drag and drop it, and then I can create a pipeline. I don't need to worry about this backend coding and all, anything.
But generally when employers, offer jobs for DevOps, they do prefer, the developer background, right?
Now it is becoming a mandatory one, I would say, especially in 2020. I'm seeing all the jobs on DevOps, they wanted as a developer background as a mandatory one. But again, If you know how to use the tool, development
Mhm.
doesn't matter for me, because I can convince my interviewer saying like, you want the output for my or for your project, right? I can get you the output. Okay. It doesn't mean like I need to get you the output only by using a code. I know other ways to get you output with the proper standards, with the proper procedures. So obviously that is how you need to convince the people. If you really don't know the coding, I'm saying, if you really don't know coding, if you really have so much trouble in understanding the coding and everything, you can still use a CI/CD pipeline on a manual way, and you can still showcase to the people who are mentioning like you need to know the coding experience. I can tell them, I don't need to know the coding experience, but still I can get you the output which you are thinking it can be done only from the coding. I can prove them wrong.
So what kind of development is required or good to learn for DevOps?
See, I would say
.NET or,
this YAML is becoming a trend nowadays. For if you take Terraform, or if you take this Azure DevOps, or if you even take Ansible, everything is written in YAML. Okay.
Yeah.
So YAML is one of the main thing, and obviously since it is Microsoft product, PowerShell would be giving us a very good advantage, or Python.
So learning PowerShell, YAML will make DevOps engineer a perfect one, is it?
I would say either one scripting is very good, but I wouldn't say everything is needed as part of. If you learn PowerShell, you can do everything with the help of PowerShell. If you learn Python, you can do everything with the help of Python. So I wouldn't say you have to learn PowerShell or a Python, but at least one is good. Right?
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. So the next one that we are going to cover is libraries, right? So the libraries is nothing but this is a place where we are actually storing your keys, where you are storing your storage accounts, or your storage connection strings, or a SQL database, username, passwords, and everything. So if you see the below over here, I can even make it as your secrets, so that if I'm storing my SQL database password, connection strings, or my any of the other usernames or whatever it is, I can even hide it, and I can use this as part of my pipelines by allowing it, so that even when someone is trying to come in and then they are trying to look into your password, they will not be able to look into it. Only the user who has created this will be able to see the password. If you are creating this, and then if even I am an administrator, if I'm trying to look into it, I will not be able to do it. So you don't need to worry about the secret exposing or other things, because Azure DevOps will not allow you to expose the secrets to anyone if you want to make it as a secret, right? Then this is a wiki. Obviously, this is same as your Confluence. So I don't know how many of you have used Confluence. So Confluence is a page, or a wiki is a page where you're just writing your blogs, where you can announce whatever the new changes that you're going to give it to the public, or if you wanted to put some announcement to your particular team, like you have a new sprint or whatever it is, you can just create a wiki page, and then you can even start writing about it. So that's what we call it as your wiki over here, right? So this is just a documental page, or this is just a document that we are going to cover it as part of your wiki. This is again the dashboards. The dashboards are nothing but. Okay. So this is again the Azure. Sorry, this is again Azure dashboards. So dashboards are nothing but it's just your building blocks for your management and other things. So if you want to create what are all the different items, or what are all the different states that you wanted to cover as part of your management, you can do that. That's the dashboard perspective over here, right? So here I can say list of bugs created, list of test plans created, and how much is my build passed or failed. Anything I can just create as part of my dashboard widgets, and I can show it over here. This is an administration perspective. Okay, so administration in the sense, like here, if you see, I'm trying to connect it to the building. Okay, I'm trying to make it auditing. I'm trying to add the list of users. I'm trying to create the list of projects, or this usage is nothing but this is where I'm going to know how much of the minutes that I'm going to use it, how much is my bill coming, and then I'm connecting it to the Azure Active Directory as well. So all these administrative activities of a particular tool can be done with the help of this administration tab. So if I don't want to create each and every users, and if your company is already using an Active Directory, yes, you can connect this Active Directory as part of this Azure DevOps, and you can have all the people that have access to Active Directory to be accessing this particular tools as well. And if I wanted to connect the billing to my particular credit card, you can do it, or you can even check what is the auditing purposes. You can take the trace logs. You can do whatever you want to do as part of your normal tools administration perspective, right? This is service and hooks, which is nothing but if I wanted to trigger any other tools, like for example, if I wanted to notify my bills failed or deployment failed to any Teams or a Slack channels or any email communications, I can do that as part of this particular hooks and connections. So I can using this hooks or connections, I can connect multiple tools like GitHub. I can connect it to my AWS. I can connect it to my Docker Hub. This is just a place, or this is just a connection service where I am connecting my Azure DevOps to the other external tools so that I can use it for my CI/CD purposes. So this is again an administrative purposes where I can connect Microsoft Teams, Slacks, emails, GitHub, and AWS, and a lot of other things. Right? This is agents. So as I was telling you about, there are two types of agents available for me. One is Microsoft hosted agents. Another one is self-hosted agents. Microsoft hosted agents in the sense like Microsoft takes care of its own virtual machine. Microsoft takes care of its memory, CPU, RAM, and everything. You just need to choose what machine you want to run. And obviously Microsoft will install all the softwares and it runs on its own. Self-hosted agents is nothing but you're installing the agents on your machine and you are taking care of it. So you have to install the softwares, you have to upgrade the software, you have to upgrade the patches and everything. So it depends upon like if my company is saying like, okay, I don't have money to pay for Microsoft hosted agents, then obviously you can install your self-hosted agents and you can even start running about it. So we have a labs about this agent installations and how do you connect these agents and everything. So you can even look into the labs, like it is very easy to connect the agents and start running about it, right? Any doubts or anything till now?
Here the self-hosted agents is just on-premise or?
Yeah, it's on-premise. I can install on my machine. Yes.
Okay.
So this is nothing but your extensions. Extensions are nothing but your plugins. As I was telling you about, you can just go to the marketplace and then you can choose whatever plugin you wanted to install. It has around 1,200 to 1,300 plugins. So whatever plugins you wanted to install, you can just about it, and then you can click on install, and automatically the plugin will be installed as part of your particular pipeline. So in the pipeline, you can search for it and you can start using it. That is what this extensions is. So it is similar to any other tools where you can choose and install the plugins. Right? Now, on the whole, which we covered on our first slide, like how Azure DevOps is very famous and other things. That's what I said. Azure DevOps actually covers this entire lifecycle. It covers your software configuration management. It covers your configuration management tools like Ansible, Chef, Puppet, Terraform, and everything for your infrastructure creation. It has its own CI/CD pipelines. It has its own services, service connections, service hooks. It has its own boards. It has its own artifacts. It is easily integrated into the cloud, and it has its own agents or a Microsoft agents as well. So having all these features together in a single tool will help you to master outside in an industry, so that if you tell or if you put this expert level certification on your resume, and then if you tell the people like, okay, I know Azure DevOps, which obviously the people would expect, or an interviewer would expect, like, okay, you know at least 5-6 tools together into this single tool called as Azure DevOps. So that kind of privileges this tool actually gives you when you start learning about this particular tool, right? Any doubts on this before we go to the demo? Can we go to the demo?
Yes, please.
Yes, please.
Okay. Okay, so this is my Azure DevOps. Okay, so I wouldn't take much time for you to tell you like how do you create an account and other things, because everything is recorded as part of your video, and then you can look into it. I'll just show you. This is my home screen of Azure DevOps, and these are all the different projects that I have. Okay, I'm just going to this health clinic project where I'll just show you. This is my repositories. Okay, here I have list of all the files and everything. And this is my Azure boards where I can see list of all the tasks, and this is my boards. okay, where I can just drag and drop the items that I wanted here and there. And then this is the pipeline. Under the pipeline, this is my CI pipeline, where I can click on this particular thing, and then when I try to edit it, I can see the list of all the individual tasks together. Okay, so these are all the list of all the tasks. So I'm using a .NET project now. So here I can see list of all the projects that is useful for my .NET and the Node.js. So if someone was asking me like how to disable or enable it, okay, I can just right click it, I can disable it. I can right click it, I can enable it. And someone was asking like, can I swap the task? Yes, you can just move it here and there. So I can move it in any order that I wanted. Okay, and the agents, I can just choose it over here. If you see, this is an agent pool where I can choose. This is my hosted agent, this is my private agents or a self-hosted agents. So I can choose my Microsoft one, or I can choose my self-hosted one. If I choose Microsoft one, it is giving me list of all the options like Mac OS or a Ubuntu OS or a Windows OS. Whichever thing I wanted, I can choose this. So let me try to run you a basic pipeline, and then I will show you an entire infrastructure creation of a website within a matter of 10 minutes over here. Okay, so when I try to run this pipeline, I can see the list of pipeline, and if you see, this Windows machine is automatically assigned from the Microsoft side. So based on this particular project for .NET and for Node.js, automatically the softwares will be installed. If you see, it is downloading the .NET Core, NPM, and everything here. So Microsoft automatically analyzes what is the software that is needed. So it is downloading .NET Core, NPM, Bower, and all these particular tools that is required for my particular VMs. So it will download and it will make my VM ready, and then automatically this is my checkout step where it is trying to download it from my Git repository, and then it is trying to check out all my files. The next steps will be an npm install, and then build, and then test and publish the steps. And I'm publishing the test results as well. And once after the CI pipeline is completed, let it run. In the meantime, I'll show you the old output. Okay, so once after these whole things are completed, I can see the artifacts over here. This will be my particular artifacts. And if you see, this is an artifact that I told you. So this is around 20 MB, and this is nothing but my zip file. So the output of an artifact is a zip file, which is actually stored as part of my Azure DevOps. So I am now going to take this artifact into my release pipeline. So when I go to my release pipeline here, I can see the list of all the particular environments. So you can add multiple environments. At present, I have only production environments. If you want, you can add this cloning as production as UAT, or then whatever you want to do, you can just try to add it. So at present for this demo, I'm just having only one environment, which is called as a production environment. And inside this, I am having multiple tasks, which is I'm trying to deploy an entire website using an ARM templates, which is Azure Resource Manager templates. So I'm trying to create an entire infrastructure of a website, SQL database, everything from the scratch. Okay, and then I'm trying to deploy a particular website, and then I'm trying to do a ping test over here. Okay, ping test is nothing but your whether your website is giving you a status code of 200 or not, right? So when I try to create a release, okay, so it will automatically take you like what is the latest release. So here, if my current release is failing, I can choose my old release, and then I can even roll back to my previous versions as well. So I can just create it, and here this is what I said. So since it is a production deployment, I don't want anyone to automatically deploy it. So what I can do, I can have this option of an approval button, so that even if someone from your organization is trying to mistakenly try to deploy it into a production, if you have this approval button, without the administrator approval, this code will not be deployed into a production. Okay, because if you see here, it is pending approval. And then when I click on approve it, and then here I can give a comment. So I'm just saying approving it for prod release. So then what I can do, I can click on approve it, so that day after sometime when, or later sometime when your client is asking like who has approved your release for the production, you can go to this particular approval buttons, and here when you view the approvals, you can see who has approved it, when it has been approved, what is the comments that they are given. So you can use this for all your auditing purposes, right?
So is it not like the difference between continuous delivery and continuous deployment?
Correct. That's the last step, right? Because production, no other companies will actually help you to do an automatic deployment. So that's where your delivery and the deployment stops.
So I mean, I think like delivery is like where it will be manual, but if it is not stopping and it is even pushing it to the production, it is called as a deployment, right? I mean, continuous. That is the difference between continuous delivery and continuous deployment.
Yeah, that's correct. That's correct. But what I'm saying, unless you are 100% confident and unless you are 100% stable, you will not be able to achieve that continuous delivery is what I'm saying. Sorry, continuous deployment.
Okay.
Okay. So, but in a lot of other companies, they will be always trying to have these manual approvals in place because they don't want to risk their code by trying to deploy something on a production, and then later if it is failing, then who will take a responsibility? So that's the reason they will not be allowing that in a lot of other companies, right?
Yeah, got it.
Yeah. So now this is my Azure cloud. Okay. So here on my, so I'm just using Azure cloud for this demo purposes. Okay. So on this Azure cloud, everything works on a subscription and a resource group basis. Resource group is nothing but consider it as a top level folder. Okay. Inside the resource group, you have multiple resources. So at present, if you see, I have only 4 resource groups. I don't have any other resource groups. But when I try to run this project, okay, so what happens? It automatically will try to create a resource group. If you see, it is trying to download an artifact, and then it is now trying to do an Azure deployment. And once after this deployment is completed, I will be able to see a new resource group over here. Okay, see, now this demo health clinic resource group is created. When I go to this resource group, and then when I go to the deployments, I can see the deployment which is happening. This is automatically connected to my Azure DevOps deployment over here. Okay, so in that case, what happens? My Azure DevOps is automatically connected to the Azure cloud, and it is trying to do a deployment for me. What are all the deployments it is trying to do? When I click on it, I can see what are all the list of deployments it is doing it for me. See, it is trying to create a website. It is trying to create a SQL server for me. It is trying to create a application insights for me. So logs, everything is being created as part of this particular website creation. Once after this complete infrastructure is created for me, then I am trying to deploy my code, and then I'm trying to monitor it. So in this case, what happens? I'm having a repository as a code, and then I'm doing a CI pipeline for a build, and then automatically I'm including the test cases, because here when I go, I can see the test cases also over here. See, I'm trying to publish my test cases. So I'm running the test even over here. So by having a code, and then I'm trying to build it, I'm trying to test it, I'm trying to release it into an Azure environment by creating everything from the scratch. And at the same time, I'm trying to monitor it as well. So this is called as your end-to-end CI/CD pipeline with your application lifecycle management for a particular tool. So this kind of advantages will be given if you learn this Azure DevOps, so that you can create your task in your work item, and then you can link that task to your repository, and that repository can be built, tested, and then deployed and then monitored, right? So
yeah, and all those tasks that are doing the stuff for you, like creating the resource file, creating the app service plans and all that, have you just code them in PowerShell or CLI or YAML? How would you do that?
Okay. So this one, the ARM, which you are saying, like the resource creations, right? So this is particularly created it using your JSON. Okay. So Azure, when you create your infrastructure in Azure, it is actually giving you 3 options. One, I can use a PowerShell. Another one, I can use your JSON. Third one, I can use either Terraform or whatever tool I wanted, right? In this case, I'm actually using your Azure native tool called as ARM templates. So now my infrastructure is created. So when I go over here, I can see the list of all the things created. See, within a matter of 5 minutes, I was able to create a SQL server. I was able to create a website. I was able to create a particular logs, and I'm able to create all these things in a matter of 5 minutes. Now, when I go to this particular website, let us wait till the code is being deployed. And then once when I access my website, okay, see, my code is deployed. Now it is trying to do my website checking. So the status of the website should show me OK or status code 200. Okay. So generally, you guys know what is HTTP 200 status code, right?
Yeah.
HTTP status code 200 is nothing but your website is up and running, correct?
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, maybe I didn't put my question right. What is written inside this? If we talk about this initialize, I understood that you have used the ARM template with all the parameters, update them with all the names required and everything. But how do you put it inside these tasks? Can you create one sample task or a step for us just to know that how did this go? Not in the portal,
Okay.
in the, yeah.
Here, this is where I'm trying to actually link my JSON templates. Okay, this is a template.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
here I'm trying to take the artifacts.
Yeah.
Okay. This artifacts is coming from my build, right? So in the ARM templates, I am first taking it as a JSON file. This is my main file.
Yeah.
Okay. The next one is a template parameters. So here I am linking the template parameters for this particular JSON file.
Okay. Now I got my question. Yeah, I got my answer now.
Okay. So now when the deployment is completed, I can see the end-to-end health clinic website created in matter of 5 to 10 minutes. So usually in the previous times and all, to create a website with creation of front end, back end, database and everything will take at least a week or two. But now with this automation of other things available in Azure DevOps, you are creating it in less than 5-10 minutes. Right? Any doubts or anything? Okay, good. So now let us go back to the slides. Let us finish it. Okay. Okay, so we have seen this live demo of website creation. Now coming back to FlexiMind. So let me just walk you through the FlexiMind course of this AZ400. Okay, so when you log into or when you buy this course, actually, when you log in, you will be able to see this particular course, which is AZ400 Designing and Implementing Microsoft DevOps Solutions. And when you go inside this, you will be able to see this is just an introduction one. And here you can see the list of all the sections that we are covering it. So each and everything will have its own videos, and then each will have its own lessons, and it has its own labs. So you will have a lot of labs, around 40 labs for this particular course, and you can practice as much as you can. And if you guys have any doubts or anything also, you can reach out to FlexiMind and I'll be happy to help you guys across anytime. And you can even click on this contact us for if any doubts on this. Or here is where you can see all these particular videos has been uploaded over here. So if you see, all these are labs. So it starts from creation of an Outlook email account till how do you create an organization settings, how do you import a code into a GitHub. So there are a lot of other labs as well. So in the CI labs, you can see the list of YAML pipeline creations, and you can see how do you create or deploy a functions app. And you can even see a lot of other labs like Jenkins. How do I connect my Azure DevOps to Jenkins? How do I connect my Jenkins to Azure DevOps? So there are a lot of labs which is covered over here as well. And even on the CD, you can see the multiple things like test cases. How do you create a test cases? How do you create a task groups? How do I do my continuous monitoring and application insights? Azure environmental, which I showed you with the coding of YAML. How do you create that? How do you run it? So there are a lot of other labs and a lot of sections that you can cover it over here. So as I told you, like it is very interesting course with a lot of hands-on and a lot of other knowledgeing things that you wanted to learn it. So I would highly encourage you guys to have a look into it and then let me know if you guys have any doubts or anything. And apart from this, sorry?
I have a couple of questions about this. When you say labs and all, we need to have Azure account, right? Or
Yes.
are your labs directly integrated with Azure?
No. That is where we have this first section, right? So here on this,
we need to create our own Azure account. Then they offer $200 worth of.
Yes, exactly. Because this is like you are going to learn it on your own, depending upon the time and need. right? So you can choose your own things, like by creating an own Outlook account, on creating an Azure DevOps account, creating a GitHub account, creating a Bitbucket account, and creating a portal account, Azure portal account. So if you are saying like, okay, I'm not interested in Azure, I have a AWS account, still you can do that. So it's not actually like you just need to use only this or that. Okay, but we have a videos. See, this lab is nothing but all our lab videos that I have recorded it on my machine. I just showed you one end-to-end demo, right? Similarly, I have multiple end-to-end demos, and I have recorded multiple things on my own machine, and then I have converted it as a video, and that video is being given as a lab over here.
Okay, one last question from my side. Like, how long does it take? I haven't got any development background. I'm an infrastructure specialist. So if I wanted to go for this certification, and if I'm ready to put an effort of 2 to 3 hours in general a day, how long does it take to get certified?
Maybe a month or two.
Okay, right.
Because because you are saying like per day you are mentioning at least approximately 2 hours, right?
Yeah,
and
that's right.
If you see the list of all the things which is covered over here, because here from this itself you can see how many things we need to learn for this particular exam, right? So if suppose per day if you are spending 2 hours and consider like you are learning at least 3 lessons, then you can calculate it with by number of things, and as usual you have to practice a lot of things, because on the exam it is not only the theory. The practice makes the exam, because in the exam you will get the labs.
Okay.
So you need to have so much of practice as well. So that's why I gave you a higher extent of maybe a month or two. It depends upon your interest.
There are labs in the exam. I just heard that they have discontinued all the labs in all the exams. Yeah, I just heard that.
Is it due to COVID or in general?
It was initially because of COVID, but then later on I just overheard it that they have completely get rid of all the labs. I don't know why.
Okay, then you guys are lucky guys, obviously. Okay. Yeah, but still I would prefer you guys to learn this labs, because since you are learning it for an expert level, if you put it on your resume, obviously people will expect you to know end to end about it, and at least like you will know the full flexibility of your tools. Okay. Good. So now coming back to this, like you will have this official Microsoft access, and then the course outline which is given from the Microsoft side, and you will obviously have 24/7 expert level support from FlexMind, and you will have your participation certificate, and then lifetime access and official lab exercises which I was mentioning to you about, which is given from a Microsoft site as well. So apart from this, like you have your 75% discount, which is actually ending tomorrow. Like if you buy this course, you can use this coupon code called Azure DevOps, and you can have a like you can actually give a try to check if you really like my course, and if you really like my labs, and if I was able to clear all your doubts, and whatever the things that comes into your mind, you can just give it as a comments, and then I'll be happy to change myself, or if you wanted to include any new things, or if you wanted to try something new also, we can just try to give an update you guys as much as we can from my perspective.
Sorry, what is the price of this course?
Pankaj?
You can check it on the website.
Okay. So whatever price it is mentioned on the website, you get 75% discount?
It's on the original price that you get 75% discount.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes. Any other doubts or anything, guys? Did you guys like this session, or was I able to clear all your doubts? Are you guys satisfied?
Yeah, it's nice.
Pankaj, anything from your side you wanted to cover?
Yeah, nothing much. Yeah, sure. Someone is asking something. Please go ahead.
No, can you post the link to in the chat window? So
no, post the link for the course you are telling, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. You will be sending the recorded session link. We'll be putting it on our YouTube channel, and we'll be sharing the link. Also, we'll be passing on the coupon code and course tutorial link over the email. Okay. So by any chance, if you have missed out looking at the PPT, you will have it in your mailbox after a while.
Okay. So if you guys also wanted to learn the Azure fundamentals and then the basics of cloud computing and everything on Azure to start with, we are also coming up with this AZ900, which is 1-star certification. So you will soon hear it from FlexiMind. And again, AZ900 is being recorded by me, and I will be giving you the complete labs and the basics of cloud computing and complete details about Azure end to end. So you will be soon hearing it from FlexiMind about that as well on AZ900.